And that brings us to the 144,000. The 144,000 are the priests. Now, as we think back to the time in the wilderness, children of Israel, the kingdom of heaven, come out of Egypt, and up until this point they haven't been real happy that they have come out of Egypt, even though they have the presence of God with them. They're just not too happy. They've been hungry, they've been thirsty, they're tired of living in tents and in the dusty desert, and on and on. And then God makes quite an appearance. The ground trembles. There's thick black smoke on the top of Mount Horeb. And God gives the covenant to Moses, the Ten Commandments. Moses receives them, and God says, your people have already broken this covenant. Go down there and see what they're doing. Moses goes down there. What are they doing?
Worshiping a golden calf.
They are worshiping a golden calf. And who made that golden calf for them?
Aaron.
Aaron, who was
the high priest.
The high priest. And so it starts. But from what I understand, the Levites did not follow along in the apostasy. And therefore God gave them the priesthood. At the end of time, the 144,000 will not be within the same characteristic, so to speak, as the kingdom who has fallen asleep. Which brings us to verse 4. The kingdom is asleep, and the warning is, if you do not wake up on your own and realize who you are and what you are supposed to be doing, my coming will be like a thief in the night while you're still sound asleep, and you will miss it. Now these people went out to meet the bridegroom, and they stayed awake, and they demonstrated their faithfulness and their trustworthiness and their commitment. But because it was taking so long, they just kind of ran out of fervor and slid toward mainstream Christianity. Verse 4. But you have a few people in Sardis who have not soiled their robes. They will walk with me in white, for they are worthy. So just like the tribe of Levi back in the wilderness, shortly out of Egypt, at the end of time there will be a few people within the kingdom who are not asleep, who have completed the sanctification process and have spotless robes. And Jesus says, they will walk with me in white, for they are worthy. Their worthiness, as he implies, comes because of what they have done. Earlier he says, I know your deeds, but you've not finished. You started well, but then you just kind of quit. And the connection with that, of course, in Revelation 14, verse 1. And I looked, and behold, the Lamb was standing on Mount Zion. Mount Zion is the place from which civil law comes, covenant. and with him 144,000 having his name and the name of his Father written on their foreheads. We went through the message to Philadelphia. The message to Philadelphia is very pertinent to the study of the 144,000 because it is a message to the 144,000. How do I know that? Well, look at the end. The promise to those to whom the message of Philadelphia is.
Revelation 3.
Revelation 3. Verse 12. He who overcomes, I will make him a pillar in the temple. Now a pillar in the temple would be a priest.
Correct. Right.
A pillar in the temple would be a priest. So I'll make him a priest of my God. And he will not go out from it anymore. In other words, he will not leave the priesthood. He will not leave the truth. He will not be a priest that will be turned to the dark side.
As it were.
As it were. And then look at the next sentence. I will write upon him the name of my God. Now the 144,000, we're told in verse 1. What does it say in verse 1? They have written on their foreheads the name of God and my new name.
Right.
The name of God, the New Jerusalem, which comes down out of heaven from my God, and my new name. So those who are being addressed by the message to Philadelphia would have to be those who are standing on Mount Zion with the Lamb, because John sees them with the fruition of the promise made to Philadelphia. The name of the Father and Jesus' new name written on their foreheads. Another interesting note in the message to Philadelphia. Now, if you remember that this is to the 144,000 and that the kingdom are those who went out to meet the bridegroom, expecting him to come, but he didn't come. Another bit of information. In verse 9 of Revelation chapter 3, behold, I will cause those of the synagogue of Satan. What is a synagogue?
Place of worship, place of study.
It's a place of worship, but
On
it
Sabbath.
has more of a distinction.
Right, exactly.
It is a church that meets on the seventh day of the week. A synagogue. You will not find a synagogue meeting on another day of the week. They meet on the seventh day. Who say they are Jews, who say they are God's people, but they're not. But lie. Now that's kind of strong words. I don't know if I would say that, but that's what is here. Behold, I will make them to come and bow down at your feet, and to know that I have loved you. Now, I thought that God loved everybody, saint and sinner alike. But according to this, God may love everyone, but he seems to have a deeper love